what is rescue to us? Rescue is the transformation of these animals into safe, happy, healthy beings that can then go on to be safe companions and partners. And so the initial rescue, I don't even really call that rescue because that's just the initial save. Yeah, it's the initial save. To us, I do think that the rescue community needs to be held to a higher standard, that it's not enough just to donate and then save them from loading onto a truck. Yes, that's great. But then what next? You should be able to see that process all the way through and be able to know their story. We're all about transparency and about telling their stories so that really people can connect to how far they've come. And that to me is rescue.
There are healers on this planet with the power to soften the suffering of mankind, yet they have remained in the recesses of the world, abused, discarded, and labeled as trash. This is The Touch of a Mustang. I am your host, Shalise Clough, and I'm here to tell the story of wild horses, Mustangs, and the humans who are discovering and sharing their gifts while working to protect their well-being and preserve their spirit, so this divine power won't be lost. Join us on this quest with the wild Mustang.
Erin and Casey, thanks so much for being here today on the Touch of a Mustang podcast. To start with, can you guys introduce yourselves to the audience and tell us a little bit about the work that you guys do?
Absolutely. So I'm Erin, and this is my sister Casey, and we founded our rescue Ranchito 3 years ago now. We just recently passed our 3-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's exciting. We have been in the sort of rescue horse world, since we were girls, but this is like our official sort of,
awesome.
heart, souls work out there now for 3 years. So yeah. And we focus on Mustangs and burros who are wind up in really precarious situations, auctions, kill pens, and we do help with owner surrenders too. But we generally focus on the Mustangs and burros that, are in the auction system.
What led you to head that direction?
Well, we the origin story of our rescue work really begins in the kill pens of Bowie Livestock Auction. We were inspired by several rescues that would go on the ground, document what was happening, and try to help as many horses and animals as they could. So Erin and I just kind of felt like, well, we can do this too. We've been rescuing all of our personal horses since we were little girls, have been rescues, from off the track thoroughbreds to, kill pen, ponies, and, so we've always been, and even our dogs and cats are all rescues. So, it's really resonated with us to, help where we can. And so we were like, well, and Erin was the one to like kick this off. She's the brave one. She just said, let's just do this. Let's do this as our life's work. Like, let's do a nonprofit. Let's do a rescue. And so we were just like, yeah, let's do it. But it was a learning curve because we show up at these kill pens and the need is just so immense that we really just felt like, how do we do this? Because you could really just become so overwhelmed so quickly.
Yeah.
We kind of started out just casting a wide net, kind of whoever resonated with us, we were trying to pull and help. And being a small rescue just starting out, it was just not sustainable to just kind of pull whoever. So that's when we really started doing our soul searching and saying like, hey, like if we're going to do this, we have to have a focus and we really need to kind of have a lane, if you will. So that's where we decided to focus on the BLM Mustangs. It's like such a crazy space. The kill pens, I'm sure everyone can imagine, they're just sort of intense. This particular one down in Bowie, Texas. You can have, horses are run through there all month long, but once a month, so the first weekend of every month, they run a public auction. And they can have, we went for 6 months, I believe. And they can have 700-800 horses that run through the auction every month. So just generally on its face, that is just, walking into a space with that many horses is just, as a horse person and a horse lover, you're just sort of like, what in the world is happening here?
Yeah.
And then on top of it, this facility is also a kill pen, meaning that they actively ship horses to Mexico. And so they kind of get one of our original sort of inspirations behind what we decided when we first started, she always says they end up, at this particular place for a reason, these horses, which is needless to say, no fault of their own, but they do.
Yeah.
And so for us, I think like what Casey was alluding to, like kind of casting this wide net, being a small nonprofit was kind of was not like the best idea, but we tried it, just because we can only we're rescues, so that is different than a sanctuary. Meaning, once we rescue an animal, we will rehab it in whatever way that looks, and then we either train or retrain, and then we adopt them out. Versus, say, like a sanctuary, that animal then will stay at that place at that rescue for the entirety of their life. So that means, once we bring an animal in, they have to kind of have a path forward to eventually end up somewhere like a really, where we can get into that as we go along. But, we have a rigorous sort of screening process of where all these animals go. But so, when you end up kind of rescuing, they were all amazing. Every single animal that we rescued in that summer are dear to us and all are doing great. But a few of them were like sort of unrideable, which, is a little bit harder for us to adopt out. So anyway, it was just kind of this amazingly, just the most crazy learning experience I've probably had. And so it was pretty crazy to, as we joke, it's like the learning curve was just like a cliff. Of not only just what is happening literally on the ground, but what is rescue? What is it? Because at first, it's like, well, save its life. That's it. That's the end of the story. That's what you have to do. That's why
Yeah.
you go in
The
and you
immediate
save it.
need.
Right. And I'm sure we've all seen that on social media. That's like kind of a big thing on social media, if you will, like kind of this sort of, dramatic, and it is dramatic, don't get me wrong, like dramatic push to raise funds to save an animal. And that is amazing and all well and good, but, preaching to the choir, like there's so much more that comes after that. So, and that is sort of what we kind of got into learning, like, what comes after bidding on them in the auction ring and then paying for them. Cause there's like a lot,
Yeah.
it's like, so anyway,
Yeah. And
yeah, excuse me.
you
Yeah.
don't really see, I haven't seen a lot of that on social media or
Right. Yeah.
whatnot. Like what happens after this horse leaves the kill
Yeah.
pen? Like what is the path forward then? You think
Yes.
someone has them that
Yeah.
hopefully is good and hopefully they're
Yeah.
fine. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. There are rescues that have like ended up in really bad situations or not been honest
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
their public
exactly. Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe talk a little bit more about that. What does rescue really mean?
Yeah. Right.
Because yeah, like you guys say, it's more than just we raise the fun, they're leaving the kill pen.
Right.
It's a much longer process that yeah, I think you're
Right.
right. A lot of people don't see. So walk
Yeah.
us through that.
Yes. So we can take one of our Mustangs, Willet, for example. So in July of 2020, we were at the Bowie livestock auction and we came across this Mustang who we named Willet. He was actually owned by one of the barn riders at the auction. So somebody that will ride the horses through for a fee.
Mhm.
And he was basically traded a lady for this horse because Willet was just too much horse for Willet, for this lady. She basically gave this horse to this barn rider, and he just immediately brought him to auction and said, like, I'm going to sell him. So he just said he's had 60 days of training. Sorry, hold on, training.
Quote unquote training. Yeah. I mean, which fair enough.
God, think about kids having 60 days of education. Like that's nothing, right? So like, and he's
Yeah.
like, oh, he's been known to jump 6 foot round pens. And so it's like, wow. So already we were like, what type of pressure is being used on this horse for him to feel like he needs
And
to
if I may
jump?
interrupt,
Yeah.
when we first saw him, he was getting him out of that pen and he almost jumped out of, and the
Right.
buoy pens are 6 feet
You thought
easy.
that's the horse for
We were
us to
like,
rescue.
So we're like, that's the horse for us.
Yeah.
Because we just felt for him deeply and we just immediately felt a connection. So we're like, we're going to get this horse.
Yeah.
And so we brought him, he quarantined in Texas and then we brought him back to, we were located in Utah at the time. We've since relocated to Southwest Colorado.
Okay. See, I
That's when,
thought there was a Utah connection
Yeah.
in there. So
yeah. So lived our whole lives in Utah, but we've just recently moved to Southwest Colorado. But we were in Utah at the
Southwest, you
time.
said?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, outside of Durango.
Okay.
So yeah, so we were like, "Okay, well, how hard can this be?" Right? Like,
He
we
he
ride.
rode him.
Yeah, he rode him,
Yeah.
we ride.
And that's when you guys realized you were jumping off a cliff
Yeah.
with the
Yes.
whole rescue thing?
Yes, so, we do a few things with him, and we were very naive in, our work with
Happy to say, yeah.
Mustangs, like, happy to say, but he ended up bolting on me, I fell off, I almost broke my leg, it was pretty intense.
Oh, no.
So at that point, we were like, "Okay, this is so much more complicated than we think," "This is
Yeah.
very, very tough." So we then started to just, like, dive into, like, what does Will it need to become, like, a safe horse, like, a happy, healthy horse? And that really has taken us on a journey. We still have Willet to this day.
Okay.
He just finished up with another 60 days of training with
90, yeah.
90 with an
Yeah.
amazing gal. And he's doing so, so great to the point where now we can take him back and we can get him on the trails and get him feeling comfortable. But it was so psychological for him. And I think that really opened our eyes to the Mustangs that end up in the auction system and how much baggage and trauma that they do carry. These are like formerly wild animals that have kind of traded hands, like they've been traded, they've had, inconsistent training, different styles, different approaches, and then they just end up in this kind of like auction pipeline. It's just like, and they don't have any family, they don't have any like, sense of place. It's just like incredibly, like we see them in these incredibly intense situations, and then you get them back, and they're these powerful animals that like really there's so much to unpack. So that's just one example though. And so, you take on these animals and like, wow, this has been a 2-year commitment and it's been the best thing. We love him dearly and he's going to find an amazing home at some point when he's ready and he's safe. But, it shows you like how much they've been through and how much they need to get to a place where they're like actually safe partners that can because like when we do give them the time and the training that they need, we consider it an investment in their future. Like then they become these safe partners.
Yeah.
We're willing to stay with them till they get to that point and whatever they need.
And if anyone's
Yeah.
wondering how tempted we are to keep every single one, it's high.
Yeah,
But
I
no,
know that's probably part of the hard part is sending them on, but
we have a
probably
dear
good when you
girlfriend,
find a home that you feel
yeah,
is like a
Yeah.
good fit
who
for
has a
them.
sanctuary, and she's like, "I don't get it. I don't know how you do it." I'm like, "It is not easy."
Right.
I'll say that.
So, to just closing out the point that you brought up, is, putting Willet's, we fundraised for Willet on Instagram, on social media, saying like, this horse needs help, please donate. And we raised, maybe I think,
3,500 at
at
most.
most for him. And, he's probably been a $10,000 investment for us, which is, again, what we have signed up for. But when you say what is rescue to us, like rescue is like the transformation of these animals into like safe, happy, healthy beings, that can then go on to be like safe companions and partners. And so the initial rescue, like I don't even really call that rescue because like that's just
It's like the initial save.
yeah, it's the initial save, and so to us, I do think
Yeah.
that the rescue community needs to be held to like a higher standard, that it's not enough just to like, donate and then, save them from loading onto a truck. Like, yes, that's great. But
First
then
step. The first step of many.
but then what next, And so,
Yeah.
and you should be able to see that process all the way through and be able to like know their story. So we have kind of we're all about transparency and about telling their stories so that, really people can connect to like how far they've come, and that to me is rescue. So it's been a learning curve and it's been amazing. But yeah, these horses end up here for a reason, and it really is the unpacking of that we discover.
And just like any of the horses that are at any facility, any kill pen or whatever, but even the domesticated horses, who knows? It's probably, pretty rare to know their history. And, to me, it's just even, sort of magnified with a Mustang because, we can have that discussion if you want, but they are different than a domesticated horse. They just are. And so, in fact, knowing their history would actually be really great because then you can know, like, how many hands have they been through? Did they just go from holding to a pasture? I mean, there's a lot of,
Yeah.
a
Definitely
different,
provide you with some insights that might make
Right.
things click, why
Yeah.
reactions are happening and whatnot.
But yeah, it's pretty wild. And another quick story is that we just pulled a BLM burro out of a kill pen who was microchipped. He was like literally days away from like starving to death. You can check out his stories on our Instagram, but he's an absolute skeleton. But we go back. We did trace his brand back to you tell the story.
Yeah, so the whole thing was crazy because the kill pen had his paperwork, which again is a whole other topic, which is critical. If they're BLM, they have to be titled. So they had a title which said that he was 4. And again, people can go look on our Instagram. I got to be honest, he does look a lot younger than that.
Yeah.
He just looks, probably because he's a skeleton. Anyway, so then our vet looked at him and his teeth are a little wonky. So the vet's like, he's maybe 1.5, 2.5. Anyway, so we scan him for a microchip to ensure, in fact, he does have one. And so now the BLM has a resource online where you can go in and put either a freeze mark number or a microchip in, and then they can kind of they'll give you like the location history of where they've been. Anyway, so he is 4. And he was actually born in facility. So his mom was rounded up pregnant, and then he was born actually at the Florence, Arizona training facility, which is a correctional facility.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was moved to Axtell, which is a large holding facility in Utah, a private holding facility in Utah for both burros and Mustangs, and then was sent to some sort of adoption event
in 2024. And so from 2024 to basically now, he was starved to death. So they didn't feed him.
They did not feed him.
And then he ends up in the kill pen after all that. It really is wild to see like what happens to our BLM Mustangs and burros. Like, once they're adopted, it's just like anybody's guess, what happens to them. And we all know kind of the horror stories.
And when you can adopt one for $125 or even purchase one for $25. And then of course we all know, like, I'm sure people listening know at least a little bit about a Mustang. Like that is an endeavor, and I wouldn't recommend, even though they might be quote cheap, I wouldn't recommend, a wild untamed Mustang as someone's first sort of horse or because, but so I can see how they go from, even with the best intentions, I can see, how they fall through the cracks because it's just not set up well for, safeguarding them. Definitely after they leave like BLM hands, the holding, for sure. It's not really set up that well to safeguard them. So anyway, and at the, and just to bring it back to Bowie, because that is where our initial sort of origin was, there's lots. I mean, there are more Mustangs than you would think there. Because I was surprised kind of going in, not yet having a Mustang Focus, how many are there. So
Yeah,
and that's thinking,
sad
wow.
but not surprising when you can acquire them cheaply, and they are not. They're not cheap time wise. They're not cheap. They cost as much as every other horse. Take a lot more time, a lot of times to get them to what a lot of people want, which is a horse to go out and jump on and
Oh my
ride
God,
and
it's
fun and not have to
immense.
worry about anything with.
It's immense. It's immense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one key to what you guys have talked about is the value of putting training on a Mustang, because really they are low value horses. They're easy to acquire. You can acquire them cheap. They don't have value in our world until they become acclimated to the human world, and they can give humans something back. I mean, it's sad. Nobody wants, a lot of people don't want it to be that way. But the reality is that, they're kind of easy come, easy go, and a lot of difficulty to get it to something that someone is going to value and want in their lives. And so anyone who has a Mustang in any capacity, if you can put that training on them, make them good with humans, that to me just makes a huge difference in how safe they're going to be throughout their life.
absolutely.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, even look at Willet, who, bolted on me. Like, if that was anybody else but us, back to auction you go, because it's just like,
Or sell him to someone else. And then what, like, and, obviously growing up, we had all these animals, and then, we would kind of pass them along to the next owners and not knowing, right? But like, you go to auction now and you like see ponies and you see like, it's like, where do they go? So even like, okay, Willet wasn't for us. So we, not us, but we pass him along to the next person that is like, no, I got him. I got it. Do you? Because then I don't know where he ends up. So like that whole process is kind of scary how you kind of lose track. But I think with the Mustangs, easy to acquire, but but really, like really an undertaking. And so I think, okay, yes, we are advocates for, having wild horses be wild. I think, that is such a involved and nuanced topic in and of itself in terms of like how that should happen and what's the best practices and all that. But okay, just like
complex and also largely out of a lot of people that love Mustangs control, like there's only so much we can do. It's not like,
right.
I know I've had people kind of attack me like, you took them off the range. I'm like, I had no
yes,
say
we
in
get that too.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
there are times I look at my Mustangs and I'm almost like, I wish you guys were still free because you
Us
can just see
too.
the wildness in them.
Us too.
But
And as a
beyond our
side
control.
note, yeah, it's so beyond our control. And as a side note, like I wish the 70,000 in holding could kind of go back to a rewilded type scenario in like a large land sanctuary type environments. But like, those sanctuaries are full and there's no room. So it's like, what do we do with all these animals? So truly like that.
And like you said, I mean, we humans have gotten involved, at that management level. I think, we're kind of stepping in as also humans being like, well, how can we,
work within the
transform,
confines that exist.
like transform some of these Mustangs' lives to be better. And yes, they do have to be in a domesticated human world. And we love to, like that's not my favorite, but it is what it is. So we're kind of, like we're trying to work within what is the reality, which is, we have 65,000 Mustangs in holding. And then just the flow that we've seen recently into kill pens and such, I feel like there's been an uptick, which again is a whole other topic, which, but so basically what we've decided is we love Mustangs. There is an issue. We're small. Where can we kind of, sort of help them? And so this is where we're at. And so even, if we can adopt 2 to, let's just give ourselves some credit, 2 Mustangs a year, that seems crazy low. But 1, it takes from anywhere from 6 months to infinite, like an infinite. I mean, we have no idea how long it'll
to
take
do it well.
Will it
right.
say,
I mean, you can bring one in, try and flip it, pass it off to someone else quickly. But then the question, is it going to be successful? Are they going to be able to handle this horse that, a lot of horse owners, from information I've read, a lot of them are very short term. They kind of get into it, get excited about it. Is work, it costs money. It's not easy. It makes everything in your life harder.
Yeah.
You really have to have a commitment or it's just going to be another flip. And I mean, I think you guys probably see those results with the when you go and visit the pens that these horses they're just getting offloaded.
And I even as so if we're at auction, we're very selective even with the Mustangs that we would take in. Like for example, like we're looking for Mustangs that are human oriented, like will you allow you to approach them and pet them, our halter broke. Like so we aren't even really touching the like unhandled Mustangs that are coming through the auction system because well, I mean, if we had infinite money, we would, of course.
Infinite
but
that takes a lot of infrastructure in and of itself to do that correctly and safely.
And not being a sanctuary, like we can't take on Mustangs who might not be able to like graduate our program, if you will.
Yeah.
So like, because we don't have anywhere to put them.
Caveat though, of course, they're always safe with us. And then if they stay with us,
but then we would be done with our we would have to like say, hey, okay, that's it. We're done. And so we want to.
And I think that's a reality we all have to look at. Like, what can we take within our capacity that's not, again, putting them at risk? Can we rescue 1 or 2 and keep them safe for life?
Right.
Or are we going to try and rescue 10 and they're safe for a year and then it all falls apart? We can't sustain them. And it starts all over again, which in my mind is almost perpetuates the cycle of suffering.
Exactly.
Like you said with that burro, like years and years of not eating, like how much more suffering is that than
I know
other situations? Not easy to think about or whatever, but sometimes, death is a mercy versus long-term suffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's another thing in the rescue, sort of this like kind of larger scale rescue. It's like not dying is it. Like that's like they're not going, trust me, shipping to Mexico is not the way I would choose for any animal.
No, right. Again, something like, none of us want to have happen for sure, if we could stop it.
Versus saving, but then what happened truly, what is happening to that animal after, or do they have are they thriving? Are they,
Right.
that so
And
yeah, I
especially
hear you.
horses who are just so, I mean, all animals are incredibly sensitive, but horses are just so, they suffer so immensely, when they are kind of just like passed around and are not in like safe hands and are treated roughly and like just like kind of sickening to like think about what a lot of these Mustangs go through. And you do
Mm,
wonder like, is
it's
being
really sad.
alive when you're suffering like that. And so I think euthanasia in the rescue world does need to be talked about more. I mean, that's a whole nother topic,
Yeah.
but it's not something that like keep them alive at all costs because that being alive is the gold standard. No, not at all.
Not all
Like
the
when
time.
we're no,
Yeah,
and
not all the
so
time, yeah.
when we're at the auctions, we just tend to say, okay, what horse is going to be most likely to go on and be a successful like horse in the human world?
Yeah, have a
Because
good life.
like, if we can choose that one, then they can graduate and then another horse can come into their spot. So we're very selective about who we pick and who we think would like do well. And so once we pick that horse, we will kind of take him back to our facility and just let him like chill, like decompress. Like we'll just
Mm,
mess with him a little bit, like low pressure, brush him, groom him, like just
Get to know
get to
them.
know him, like let him get
I
to
think that's one of the most underrated steps of
yes,
getting
like
any kind
like
of horse and bringing it into your life is like give them a
Rehab,
minute.
if you
give him a
will. Yeah,
minute.
which is not necessarily always medical. It can be just like mental rehab, like
Totally.
Yeah, or just
Yeah.
a time to acclimate. Like it's a
Yeah.
totally new world if you think about it. They are
Yes.
stuck in these little boxes and then it's like, oh, all of a sudden everything changes and you're
Oh my
in this new
no
place and
control.
we just want you to act perfectly and
yeah, we're gonna
be
jump on you.
mechanical and be everything we want you to be without any consideration
Yeah.
for
Totally,
what
that's such a good
you might
point.
be experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like so that's really big for us, and it allows us to get to know them, and then they can get to know our herd, and
Yeah, such
like
an important
we learn
step.
so much at that point as to like what would be the right next step for them when that time comes, which is training. And then Air
Y
can speak to
yeah,
this.
and as you can imagine, that training step when they're ready, which, can be anywhere from usually we give them at least a couple months, but a couple months
Right.
to
Whatever.
whatever. We have a little cute gray pony Mustang from Bowie. He's from Bowie Livestock, but he is from the Confusion Mountain or no, Confusion HMA in Utah. That was a new one to us.
Yeah, I
And
haven't heard that
he
one either.
yeah, I know. And he is adorable and cute and we just I mean, he's like so friendly and so like human oriented, but
A mess.
he's just yeah, like if you were to like he just seems like kind of an anxious guy and again, who know he's sick, so who knows what happened beforehand. But so we kind of did send him to training. Everything went great, but it just didn't progress because the really wonderful trainer who was a good match for him. She was just like I feel like she was like, I don't know if he's ready. And I think she
Yeah.
was right. So I love that. She was like, he's not like I love that. Like, please do not keep these Mustangs if they are not a
Yeah.
good fit or.
Yeah.
And I was
Right? Yeah,
very
let's not just
peaceful.
be pouring money
No,
into
Totally.
or
something that is
stressing them
not
to death,
progressing in a way that's
like
gonna benefit everybody,
yeah,
yeah.
or just like stressing them out. So anyway,
Mhm.
she was like, "Well, I don't know, like if this is his time or if we're not a good match." So anyway, we're just like, you know what? So he came back and we've been hanging out with him again. I'm like, he's just not ready. So he gets to do whatever Dunlin wants to do for the foreseeable future. And I do think, as like woo woo as it sounds, I do think we will know like he's ready. Because that's how it was with Willet. Like
Yeah.
Willet was ready. We're ready. And he did great at training.
Yep.
And now he's back. But he took, yeah, a year and a half
Right.
of hanging around. So,
Wow.
yeah, I do think that is a piece that is a gift to us because we get to know them and they get to like truly decompress, but
And show
also,
us who they are.
but then like kind of this like gift to them as well, which is like, you don't have to be anything right now. You can just,
Because we all
relax.
know
You can be a horse.
Yeah, you can go be a
we all
horse.
know those like well-adjusted Mustangs that just have that calm energy, and we all know those Mustangs that like literally you like look at them wrong,
Yeah,
and
and
they'll
then
like
yeah.
they're always on edge, and like like you just you kind of make the wrong move, and they're out of there, and like that would not be a horse that I'd say, okay, this horse is ready for training
Training.
because like they just need a minute to like regulate.
Yeah. Well, and you have to wonder, like, how long term their fight or flight instinct has
I don't know.
been going on, and they're getting rounded up. Like, these are all things
Oh
that
yeah.
feel like on the verge of death to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they are fighting life in these situations when
Yes.
they go from roundup to a trailer
Yes.
to holding pens with horses they don't know to, an adopter who may or
Yep.
may not know about them,
Yes.
or to a different holding pen.
I know.
So
I
Or
know.
like
I
getting
think we
shipped through the vacuum
underestimate
vents. Yeah,
the
it's just
impact
like
of everything that we're like, it's no big deal. They just took a trailer across.
it's like, "You do that. That's not fun. That's scary,"
So it's
especially when you have
Right.
no clue what's happening. Yeah, so, in all that, we have also kind of embraced this, like, need for, like, holistic health with them and, like, ulcer control. I mean, like, these poor animals are probably just, like, riddled with anxiety and,
Yeah.
so anyway, we have, like, kind of a whole protocol that we use when they come in, but then they get whatever time they need, and then from there, that has also been kind of a steep learning curve, but also, like, kind of like a deep dedication with Casey and I to find trainers that resonate with us, but then also do good work. And so we have, to be quite honest, I wish we had more, but we have, a few that we really, really love and do really well and do well with different types of Mustangs. So, because, restarting a Mustang is actually a whole endeavor versus, say, starting fresh from, say, an untouched Mustang. So,
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely another element.
it just requires kind of a different level of skill and,
And like an
dedication.
empathy. It's like
Yeah.
it's like an empathy that where you can really just listen so intently as to like what they're telling you. And I think it's such a skill. And we do have an amazing female trainer. I mean, we love the men trainers, but you know what I'm saying? Like it is an intelligence like that is so we look for because you can really screw it up and like you kind of have one shot to do it right,
Which goes
I mean,
back to
they're
the point
very
where,
freaky, but
like with this one trainer, she was like, he's not ready to move on. And we were like, great, he's coming back. Like, perfect. Appreciate you
Mhm.
not taking our money, but also like that you're listening to him and that he is
Mhm.
like telling you it's a no-go from me. And so she was like, no. So we're like, well, we'll grab him. And I agree with her. He is not ready. So
right. And so like
yeah.
part of our focus on training is that we stay like deeply involved and we're always kind of, checking in and making sure that they are progressing and they're doing well. But then we have like two other Mustangs, Crow and Coulter, and they were both one was from a kill pen, the other from the Centennial Livestock Auction in Fort Collins, Colorado. And they were just kind of like, they didn't have training, but they just had great heads on their shoulders. They were just like calm, like confident, like really just solid guys, but they just had no skill set, no education. And so we were like, okay, let's send these guys to this other trainer we have in Arizona who, is great and just kind of no nonsense, just kind of, saddles them up, gets them on the trail, but like they kind of, both of them they would buck under saddle when you would get on them, which is, the why as to why
Why
they're
they end
at
up,
the
yeah.
auction or the kill pen. You always find it out. And it's like, okay, you get them under saddle and they buck. And so this particular guy rides it out and I know there's some opinions about that, but it was really actually quite a minor behavioral issue that he just kind of ironed out. And then they set
Like unbelievably minor.
unbelievably minor.
Yeah.
They just needed to be correct, like just shown
Just
the
like, nah.
way.
And then
Yeah.
now they're both,
It's
well, one
enough
of
for
them,
them to get out of.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like in that case, it's like, okay, amazing. And then now they're on the trail, Coulter's adopted. There's just like, so it was like, they're so different, like, and
Yeah, such
they're,
a range of needs and personalities and what feels comfortable to one and is
yeah.
easy for one and more difficult for another. Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it is like constantly, which of course, I mean, not to say that this was going to be easy, but yeah, like a constant reassessing and like, making sure that everybody is where they need to be because yeah, we just like to like the detriment of our own like mental health. It's like they cannot be in the wrong spot. They cannot, suffer one more second. We love to push them, like they're allowed to like learn skills and like be pushed, but not
yeah,
to the point where, they're like our
Yeah.
babies,
Yeah.
come on.
yeah. It's good they're in caring hands now that are watching out for them.
I mean, yeah, like we will, do anything for them. So on that note, well, because, obviously I know like the adoption piece, well, I think it's confusing for people because they're like, how do you do that? Because they're so I get that, but it is really hard. Yes, yes, yes. We're very attached, but speaking of Coulter, who's this really beautiful, tall, he actually looks like a thoroughbred. He was born in facility as well, but his mom is from Antelope HMA in Nevada. But he's just like this really striking, kind of tall, skinny Mustang. And also all the Mustangs look so different. That's also hilarious. We should actually do like a lineup and show all the different shapes.
Oh
But
yeah, they're definitely
range.
yeah, so
wide
he was at
variety.
the Centennial Livestock Auction, which is in Fort Collins, Colorado. And in fact, we were bidding for him against a kill pen gentleman from up that area. And so he's like a trader and a flipper and a kill pen. But anyway, so we got him, and he was like broke to ride, according to the literal, like broke to ride on his paperwork. That's it.
Yeah.
And so we got him. He had, I think, he had 6 weeks or so of like, actually probably 2 months of kind of decompressing. And he was not ill. He was a little bit skinny, but anyway, he did great. And then I decided to get on him because he's broke to ride.
Broke to ride. I'd never take that at face value.
There's another quote. And
Everybody needs to assess the horse on your own before you decide what a horse can handle.
I'm 43, but I mean, I spent most of my childhood in the dirt with my pony, who was Casey too, who was
not trained.
Not trained. I mean, I'm no like stranger to falling off, but I am older now, and I would prefer not to. And anyway, he bucked me off. It was not like a vicious thing, but anyway, so we were like, ooh, not broke to ride, or maybe not
Issues.
So anyway, so he went to our trainer. So anyway, he went to our trainer in Arizona and really like immediately progressed to riding on the trail. And just one of our kind of dedicated from the beginning followers reached out and said, I think this is my horse. I've been looking for years.
Yeah.
She'd been looking for years. She's a big Mustang gal, like loves Mustangs. And so anyway, lots and lots of back and forth, lots of talking. And our big thing is like, if you are so dedicated, like you'll come visit, no matter, like if they're in Alaska, you're gonna go visit that horse in Alaska. You know what I mean? Like you'll come. So anyway, she got on a plane.
We're testing your commitment because you're gonna need it down the line.
This is nothing compared to like what it will be.
Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, actually, excuse me. She got in her car and she came down. She's actually in northern Utah. Anyway, it was just like the most beautiful, like kind of love at first sight. Even though I can like totally relate because he's amazing. The horse, his name is Coulter. Anyway, so it was really great. But it's just a long process of us kind of screening people and meeting them and talking to them. But then on top of it, it is like this kind of dedication on their part to continue to show up and
show up while they're in training too.
Yeah.
And like, jump on them, like go on a ride, get to know them, like make sure it's a good fit, make sure you're comfortable with
super
where they're
smart to
at.
do.
Yeah, so we, and that's how we kind of like try our best to ensure that these homes are going to be like great homes, because it's like, it is such, like you were saying, such a commitment. It's such a lifestyle change. It's such a dedication, and so, we really, but it's also like the best dedication and the lifestyle commitment. Like it is truly like, to have your very own Mustang and to like, set sail into the mountains. And, there is this kind of like, incredible emotional and spiritual component to it. Like where, we call them like our guides to the wild. Like, they take us out and we get to like experience nature and the outdoors, like with a animal that was born there. And it's just like, there's nothing like it. And so, if you can open your like heart and mind to them, it unlocks like truly something next level within yourself. So, that is something that we really do like to convey with, our storytelling, because, again, we're a small rescue. So storytelling can kind of amplify the work that we do. And so, we're always trying to find ways to like, hey, how can we like tell, Willett's story? How can we tell a Coulter story? How can we, tell, you really show like this full transformation arc of like where they've come from and, like how far they've come. And it's just like, I don't know, like if we can get people personally invested and emotionally invested in their stories, like, we've done our job, because you can just see how like magnificent like these animals and special these animals are. And I know like a lot of your guests say it, and I know you talk about it a lot, yourself included, we've both had like pretty profound experience over and over, but kind of origins like of profound experiences with Mustangs. And I think and we grew up with really amazing domesticated horses, like off the track thoroughbreds. And
there's just something about the Mustang that and I think, if I may, women and Mustangs to boot, I just think there's like this really beautiful, like, yeah, gritty wildness that we like women just sort of innately feel. And then like,
free for a minute.
Yeah, like
yeah,
God
like
forbid.
freedom, like, no, but, and so I know, like, yeah, Willet, in fact, is the Mustang that sort of changed Casey's entire sort of outlook on how on how we want to move forward. And then I had a Mustang kind of
Yeah, I mean,
before
tell us about that. Like,
yeah.
how did you guys get drawn to Mustangs? Because as we've talked about, they're not the easiest horses to
No.
build a life with.
Yes, I know. It's
Yeah.
true. And like we laugh all the time because like sort of horse rescue is kind of a wacky niche, and then Mustangs are an even wackier niche, and then like we've just really narrowed ourselves down to like
the wackiest.
the wackiest.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think there
yeah.
is something, people that choose Mustangs, like there's something that draws them in about like whether they know it or not, they're wanting a challenge, the ones that stick with it,
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people are like, yeah, I saw them do something crazy, and I was like, that was the Mustang for me.
Yeah.
It's a typical story when you're like,
it wants nothing to do with me, and like, yeah, that's my guy.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, gosh, Coyote was our first Mustang. Actually, you sent me his photo. He was at some guy's house that's the other thing. Finding Mustangs like for sale on Facebook. Well, any horse for that matter, but anyway.
So many.
I can't.
So many Mustangs like get traded on.
Anyway, not a huge kind of write up about him. Basically, it was I don't know anything about him, literally like nothing. But I'm gonna throw a saddle on him and then take him to the Billings livestock auction, another really massive sort of horse sale in the country. Used to be a big exporter to Canada that has decreased a little bit in numbers because most of the exports are happening on the Mexican border. But so Casey sent the photo to me, and I'm like, I don't need, like, no one needs another horse at the moment. We didn't have any like facility for horses. But I was like,
we're not looking for this.
And like, no, we don't know anything about him. So I'm going to go get him. And for sure, this is a good idea. So
this is your first Mustang?
Yes.
Okay.
And we grew up in Utah. So like in the West, and like, so we know wild horses. But just generally, like literally from being wild. So we have an idea. Okay, so I go get him, and he is barely handleable. I mean, the lady like led him from a very tiny that was it. I was like, once I saw him in that pen, I'm like, well, I'm taking him because he's like in this tiny little pen. And so
it was middle of winter
in like Cody, Wyoming. So it was just like 0 degrees and the wind chill. So I was like, okay, well, whatever, I'm gonna take him. We get him in the trailer, but it was anyway, kind of fast forward, he is older. So he was probably 14 when I got him. Yeah, say that. He had plenty of trauma. I don't know. I mean, who knows, right? Who knows what they've been through, especially when they're a little bit older like that and have been out of holding for a long time. But he was, very weary of humans, and I knew nothing. Like, we had another rescue horse, Lola, who was just like always loved us, like always came right up to us. So this was like, I'm not that naive, but I was like, wow, he really does not want. And of course we like let him out in a pasture too, which was my bad because that was a whole endeavor. Cause then he's just like out there, like
he's like, finally.
But anyway, it's sort of, so there was like the nitty gritty of like figuring him out generally and like literally how to care for him. But also it sort of overlapped with my daughter was sick. Oh, I'm going to cry.
Let's go. No, that's fine.
Was very sick.
She had cancer, like a kidney cancer, which is just at 18 months, which like took the whole family by surprise. She's doing great now.
Yeah. So what should I do? Get a totally unhandled horse while my daughter is,
This is the perfect time.
Yeah. But anyway,
honestly, maybe.
Honestly, like good distraction, but also like just, like with the Mustangs, like they're just so like present and, honest and real. And so like, he really like helped me, like not be like in this trauma state. And I Actually, we sent him to a beautiful sanctuary with another older Mustang, and it was like the best gift I could give him because he did not need to be dealing with humans anymore. But I mean, I miss him, but he just like, I truly credit him for like, getting me through that. And in turn, like, ensuring my, like, kind of like cementing my passion for helping Mustangs,
Yeah.
So,
anyway. And, I mean, like that trauma of going through that experience, and then what Coyote had been through in his life, the trauma that he carried. I think there was just like this like immediate, like, recognition,
Yeah.
if you will. And it was just like really beautiful to see like Erin have that connection with him. And I think there would be no other kind of soul
Yeah.
that could have like
No.
kind of guided you through that incredibly scary situation. And so yeah, it's like they just are these like gifts to
Yeah.
us, And so like,
Yeah.
we kind of led the podcast with like, oh man, like this is like such a difficult undertaking and it's expensive and they're like complicated and this and that, but it's like also like, being able to like walk this life with them and being able to
Yeah.
like see their transformation against all odds, like they've been
Yeah.
through such the cruelty of like
Yeah.
man, the cruelty of humans,
Yeah.
but then yet they're still willing to like forgive and like let us in and show us like their ways,
Resilience,
and
yeah.
the resilience is truly like they have given us the greatest
Yeah,
gift. So
definitely.
like we'll just do whatever it takes to like
Yeah.
protect them because they protect us. They truly like get us through like everything that we're going
And like
through in this life.
Casey, I think was like, I'm being a little bit silly, but slightly on the fence about the whole Mustang thing.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
she met Willet and it was like, got it.
Yeah,
I'm on
yeah.
it.
That one pulled her in. Well,
Yeah,
it's
we all have our
interesting.
heart
I
horses.
have talked to so many people who are like, I found this Mustang. I,
Yeah.
made this crazy leap. And then it's like these things come up in life. And it's like,
Yeah.
it was the thing that helped me get through.
Yep.
Or the other
Yep.
thing is like the stories where it's like, you see this horse, who knows what they've been through,
Right.
and they can still find peace and forgiveness and they
Yeah.
keep going,
Yep.
and it really can reflect into our lives that, like, hey, maybe they understand and like, look, they're doing okay, and like
Yes.
gives us
Like, could we
strength,
learn that?
encouragement,
I know.
peace,
I
to keep
know.
kind of walking through the hard things that life brings, because
Yeah.
suffering is sadly just a part of life that
Yeah.
is there
Exactly.
for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And actually, my daughter, who's 7, spends a lot of time with us, of course. And she has actually kind of developed a bit of a connection with Dunlin, the little gray Mustang, who's kind of back for a little bit.
Mhm.
And we had just like, it was actually, well, it's funny in hindsight because everything's fine. But he like kind of nipped her yesterday, and she kind of dysregulated her. And so anyway, we're kind of like trying to talk to her about it. And we're like, honestly, like, it's not going to be the calmest, chillest Mustang, sister. Like, it's going to be the one, like, it's going to be the little, like,
teacher,
the
yeah.
teacher. Like, maybe that's what we're just trying to help her, move past it. But I think she liked that. Like, she
Yeah.
was like, okay. Like, and I was like, what about Coyote Kula? Like, you could hardly catch him. You could, like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
maybe the more complicated, and I have a Mustang who's very uncomplicated, and I will take her any day too. So don't get me wrong, but like
I mean,
maybe
those horses are great. Where it's like, yeah.
I'll take her any day as well. But the teachers, can really be
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are
Yeah.
a little bit feisty or a little bit,
Yeah.
you hate to put that on them, but a little bit of baggage, because can mirror, because my daughter at 7 has some baggage that she probably unconsciously needs to work through as
Yeah.
well. So I'm like, maybe we just, he's got a few things. Maybe you guys are meant to be, partners.
Yeah.
We'll see. She was into
Yeah.
it. She liked it.
Yeah.
And I do think that they kind of help us see our strength also. Like, hey,
Yeah.
like, I can do this. I can work towards this. It's hard, whether
Yes.
that's rescuing or just owning
Yes.
a Mustang. If you have that commitment,
They
you kind of
absolutely-
realize, like, I can dig a little deeper than maybe I
Yeah.
thought that I could.
That is
Actually, that's funny. That's what we were saying to her. We're like, you can cry. Oh my God, cry away. But like maybe while you're crying, you also like continue, like pull from somewhere deeper and like continue on while you're crying. Do
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
Women are good like that. We can do it all at the same time, man. We can cry while also.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so the Mustangs are, while we feel like, intellectually the need is there and somebody who has their best interests at heart, we also are like very emotionally, connected to them and
Yeah. They've changed our lives.
yeah. And in fact, our whole operation is just totally family based. Like our parents, our mom and dad are highly dedicated to the entire endeavor. They're like, our dad is not a horseman per se, but he like loves the Mustangs. He'll,
Yeah.
it's just, it's really fun how they like they really have transformed all of our lives by far and away for the better. Even our move out of northern Utah to southwestern Colorado, we all did that as a family.
Wow.
My family, Casey's family, my mom and dad, like we all went, and I think it was just like this beautiful thing that we all needed. So they've made our lives better, and hopefully, we can give back in some way.
That's an incredible support system to
It
have,
is.
small
Yeah.
but
And
mighty.
both of
That's
our
awesome.
partners too, they are both incredibly supportive,
yeah.
and we like no roadblocks from anyone in our family, which we're very grateful for, because it is a lot. I mean, as you know, just having
Yeah.
a horse is a lot, let alone,
Right.
a
Yeah.
rescue. We're
Yeah, for sure.
very grateful,
Absolutely.
and it's been pretty rad.
What are some of the ways you feel like they've changed your life other than, what you've already shared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there more?
I mean, I resonated when you said like strength. I would say like courage, to just kind of like meet them where they're at, and to like not be afraid of them, but to just like recognize that, they've been through a lot. Just like deep empathy instead of like fear.
Yeah.
I think that's been like a real like lesson, and then also
Yeah.
like absolutely like emotional regulation and just like self-awareness. Like there's no one better than the Mustang to
Yeah.
teach you that, because like you immediately recognize like the energy that you're embodying, and then like transferring to them, and like there's
Mhm.
really nothing else that can like mirror that as like intensely as a Mustang, like not even domesticated horses. So I think that's something that I've learned from them, that I just take into my life in general, because I'll be, any just like any day thing that kind of stresses you out, you're just like that much more able to recognize, and then just like kind of bring it back down.
They're almost like a practice ground for real life.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
figure this out with the Mustang. You're going to be a
Yeah.
little bit better for the
Yeah.
things that you're not consciously thinking about how to react
Right.
to.
And then I
Yeah.
think like lastly for me, but I think my sisters also taught
Those
me
are
this though, is that, like just to like have that side of yourself that is a little bit wild and untamed, and that is untouched by, and untarnished by society. That's not a bad thing, that's actually like, truly what makes
yeah.
you unique and special in this world. And like, when we were talking about the move to Southwest Colorado, we got more acreage. We kind of just like live out a little bit more on the land, because like we want the Mustangs to have, that kind of sense of like, feeling a little bit of wild. Like even when we turn them out in the pasture, that's like kind of their space. Like we don't really mess with them there. So, like what we want to give to them, we also kind of want to give to ourselves. Like they've helped us kind of just like really tap into like what's important to us, like how do we want to live, how do we want to exist in this world. I would say that, to just kind of like, especially for women, like your kind of wild side is like what is makes you like just
Unstoppable.
fabulous, essentially. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's a beautiful point because our whole lives we're taught to conform, right?
Yeah.
And to follow this path and fit in this
Yeah.
box and sit in the chair
And
nicely.
like we're from Utah, so I always say keep sweet. That's like some strange
That's like what the
Mormon thing.
Mormons
But
say, yeah, to
like keep
women.
sweet, like this is where you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. And I think,
Yeah.
they are good at that. I think for
But that
me,
there's
yeah,
different parts of us that make us so unique that like,
Yeah.
yeah, we should be embracing and
yeah,
sharing. And like that's what
yeah,
makes the
and
world
let's
beautiful and
like
vibrant.
clap us. But I think for me, like resilience would be probably my biggest one with that. Like,
Yeah.
but just plain being wild animals, like that's pretty incredible that
Yeah.
they are, able to even, I mean, we went out to Salt Wells Creek in Wyoming, and I mean, I'm like applause for living out here, like all the wild animals, but like that's
Yeah.
like a
It's
pretty
crazy some
beautiful,
of the land they live on.
like
Yeah.
just kind of display of resilience there. But then for us, like kind of meeting and encountering these Mustangs that have had trauma and other kind of poor experiences, just to be able to come back from that, and like like we're asking them to give us a kind of a blank slate or a fresh start, and it's
Yeah.
like, can we do the same? Like, can I
Yeah.
also dig deep, and like just generally speaking, and like be be better, like, let things
Right.
go. So yeah, like resilience, but also on the same note, I think they've really taught me like horses too, like the boundaries, like they, like they're like, no, no, no. And I'm like so bad at that. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yes, 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 of course, always, always. And I'm like, wait a minute. No. And I feel
Why are
like
you
you watch
picking at
them.
me now?
Yeah, like you watch the horses out there and they're like, no. And then they move on. And then they're like, no. I'm like, I'm gonna do that, you know?
Yeah.
That's a no for me. What else? Like, I just love
Yeah,
that.
or
Like,
also, like, you can't like, have to you do have to be a little bit of a leader with a
yeah,
horse,
yeah.
like, you can't as, like, kind and, like, emotional as we are about them, and they are, like, our kids, just, like, being able to say, like, "No, I'm the boss, like, you need
Yeah.
to."
Or like, let's just work together here, focus. Yeah. It's for the best, pal. I feel like
Yeah.
they all just really come around if you're
Yeah,
like respect and
Yeah.
compassion, but also like, no, 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 we can do it. I feel
right.
like that goes back to the resilience thing. It's like, you got this, we got this. Like, but again, that takes so much time because why would they trust us, right off? Who are we to them?
Right.
So it's good.
Yeah.
It's endeavor for us to get to earn their trust,
Yeah.
And like this little cute, his name's Ibis, this little donkey, that rescue donkey, he is technically unhandled. And so it's just like this every day. We're like, you're gonna love us, buddy. You're gonna like, I swear you. So it's like this, like, we're like kind
You
of
don't know it yet.
creeping into his good graces, and honestly, it's going pretty well.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
say, I mean,
Yeah.
why would he trust a human after everything he's been through in
Mhm.
in a one short year? Because say what you will
Starved.
about the BLM, they do not starve the animals. So it happened after that in a
Yeah.
short year is almost, yeah. Anyway, I'm very glad that we intercepted him because
Yeah.
he was very much in need
Oh, yeah.
immediately. I would say we learned basically where we are today, no doubt, is thanks to the Mustangs. We have a
Yeah.
couple very cute domesticated horses too that we shouldn't leave out, but they're
I
great too.
know. I know. We'll always plug domestic horses also. They're also
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. We
How
don't
most
just like them in the
domesticating breed
weeds, but
Mustangs also go. Yeah. Very cool. Are there any other lessons or insights that you guys want to share before we wrap up from your experience in rescuing or
Having
Yeah,
us
thank you.
and an opportunity to discuss
yeah.
what we've learned, the work that we do, because obviously the guests you have on here are just incredibly like accomplished, inspired,
And
beautiful
doing very cool
people that are
things. Yeah.
doing such cool things. And also just like the ability to like long form discuss this. Everything's like such sound bites these
Yeah.
days. And even,
Yeah.
like you have to have like your like elevator pitch and like, like
Yeah.
it's just nice to be able to like
I
Chat.
know.
chat and discuss like where we're thinking and where we're at.
Yeah.
Aaron and I are obviously think deeply about the work, and we've been actively rescuing Mustangs and burros for 3 years now, and we've learned so much. We as a small rescue, we do want to continue to help Mustangs in other ways as well, and so we are thinking a lot about like storytelling and how we can kind of expand our reach and into like telling their stories essentially. So we are working on a podcast that we will be releasing in the spring
Awesome.
that really just brings people into our world, kind of a lot of what we talked about today, but just
Mhm.
like into the kind of nitty gritty world of like kill pens, kill buyers, traders,
Auction
the auction houses,
houses.
the
Yeah.
rescues, like it's just like it's such a fascinating world that kind of on the face of it you think maybe one thing, but then you kind of dig a little deeper and it's actually like such a entangled interesting world. Also just like digging into like the broader Mustang issue of, why are so many Mustangs being rounded up, like that Desmond Tutu quote, like where, at some point we want to stop pulling bodies out of the river. You want to
Yeah.
go upstream and find out,
Yeah.
why
What
are they
is going
falling
on?
in? And
Yeah.
so, that's kind of where we're at on our journey is that, it just seems like that we were moving and rescuing, and yet more and more and more
In fact, more and more and
Mustangs
more.
seem to be
Yeah.
ending up in kill pens and in loading onto slaughter trucks. And so, why? Why is this happening? Like these are protected animals. These are like national treasures, symbols of the American West, freedom. These are horses that like live, breathe, die on our public lands. Why are they meeting such like just gruesome fates? So, we really want to just start to investigate a lot of these issues on a bigger level. And so that's kind of where we're at. We will, of course, be continuing rescuing. We really appreciate people that want to donate. to, our rescue cause and mission, and also this storytelling endeavor too that we're embarking on.
And I think I sent you some stuff so we can put that in your show notes if people feel
Yeah,
compelled
we'll
to donate.
definitely include everything in notes, but also, yeah, go ahead and tell everybody like
Yeah.
the best places to find
Okay, cool.
you, the
Yeah.
best ways to support your work,
Yeah.
all of that.
I would say in about like 3 weeks, we'll have a really beautiful brand new website, but you can go now too. But that's kind of been one of our current undertakings on top of everything else, but it's going to be
Yeah.
great. So that is rescueranchito.org, RANCHITO, rescueranchito.org. And then on social media, all of the platforms. So, well, I shouldn't say all. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube are all just Rescue Ranchito. And then the donor box I find to be a little bit odd. Unfortunately, that does better with a link, but I think you can search Rescue Ranchito on donor box, and it'll take you to our 2026 fund that we're currently working on, which will just, as we talked, we've upped our numbers for what we need per Mustang, so that is a kind of a fund we're starting.
Where are we at?
I think we're at like almost 7,000 now, but our goal for the year is 50,000 with 10 to 12,000 per Mustang. So that's what it really does cost. So anyway,
But that is,
yeah.
but that truly is, such a cool investment for people because, you can really be a part of like a transformation of a Mustang from like kill pen to, forever home. And like we really stay close to them throughout the whole process.
And because we're so small, all the adopters are like now friends, like they are
Yes.
dear friends of ours. And not that I need to say this, but there's like a whole contract process where if at any point there's a situation that comes up, they do not end up back in any sort of pipeline. They come back to us. So that was kind of like a critical kind of baseline for any horse that leaves our care, is that we're the first call if anything comes up, because we'll have them come back to us.
Right.
So they don't end up anywhere else.
Yeah. But, we do, when we do adopt horses out for Mustangs out for an adoption fee, and, being a nonprofit, that goes 100% back into the next Mustang. So we do, want to, I don't think we'll ever be self-sustaining, as in, the adoption fee equals the amount that we actually put in for training. But, if anyone who's listening is like considering being like a donor or helping us, contributing to our efforts, this is like a fund that, does generate
To an extent,
and so
through adoption
we do
fees.
see it as like an investment. You can really be a part of like not just the one Mustang you're donating to, but future Mustangs that like come down the line. It is just like a cool, and we really stay close to like the people that help us out, who are donors that want to be part of the mission.
Yep.
We are a community, and it's just just really,
It's just awesome.
vibes.
Yeah, good vibes. Yeah. Everyone that has kind of come into our lives and all of that through this whole process have been really wonderful people. Necessarily all donors or adopters, but just like people that are intrigued by what we're doing. I have to say, like, everyone has been really wonderful. So if anyone just like has any general questions, like feel free to.
Are we hi or hello at Rescue Ranchito?
It's hi, HI at rescueranchito.org.
So please
anyone
please reach out, because
reach out, or even social media too. Like
we
check that. So happy to answer any questions or chat, or if you want to adopt a Mustang.
Yeah. If you want a project.
in 2 years when they're
Yeah.
Some point.
Well, that's beautiful. I mean, I just want to commend you guys for what you're doing. I think it's really incredible. And I love, even though it's small, it's important work, and the way you've gathered the people around you. And, you guys shared a lot of the realities of rescue, which I think is important, because you're right. Everything comes in sound bites. And of course, the stuff, we want to celebrate the good things or dramatize the really hard things. And what we see down the line is often a lot more tedious and boring, and, a slow grinding pressure that just continues. So definitely not easy work, but I think, as you guys have also expressed, completely worth the effort and the strain and the, unknown that you're going into. And I love that you guys are going to continue sharing your stories, because I really do think a big part of the solution is the more people that we can get to kind of feel that about Mustangs and love Mustangs. Like, that's where the solution is going to come, because like you and I, there's only so many horses that we can take into our personal care. But
and like with anything, you don't have to have a Mustang to care about a Mustang. So that's with what you're obviously your efforts are incredible in that way, and then
Yeah.
hopefully, just another kind of voice out there just
Yeah, I love it.
informing, I think is great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you, Shayleigh, and for all your work, and also just for like a beautiful conversation and space to just talk about what we love. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was great having you guys, and we'll definitely include any information for people to get a
Thank
hold
you.
of you and
Awesome.
see how that they can become involved in the work.
Thank you for joining us and learning about horses that heal and the humans who help them. We hope you'll continue with us on this journey. We'd love for you to subscribe on your favorite platform and follow The Touch of a Mustang on any of the major social media outlets. Please share with your friends, anyone who loves horses, or anyone who might be struggling and could benefit from this message. If you have felt the healing power of horses or help them in their divinely appointed mission, please reach out. We want to hear your story. As we say goodbye, always remember that the horse is always there to help you heal.